And we are live. Welcome to the UCF podcast number 3. Return of the King of Rio. Aldo is back, and he wasn't even in our main event, but I don't care. He's the most important guy fighting on this card. I will pay lip service to our main event, our 125-pound championship. But just so everyone is aware, this is a Jose Aldo podcast, okay? And if you don't like that, you can fuck off. So what was our main event, Clark?
We're looking at Alexandre Pantoja versus Steve Erceg in pretty interesting fight. Going the distance, but unanimous for Pantoja. And I think most people are going to agree that was definitely the right decision. Erceg, I mean, he goes toe-to-toe with the champ. You know, you got to give him that. But he definitely was not doing enough there to win that fight.
No, the Erceg's moments were when he was able to employ some really vicious counter-striking, specifically elbows, because Pantoja really only moves in one direction, and that is forward, which makes it easy to intercept his face with your fist or your elbow. The hard part is putting enough into that to get Pantoja to back the fuck up, because he won't. Nonstop throughout this fight, and it's how Pantoja always fights. He is relentless. If you've seen any of his other title defenses, when he took the belt from Moreno, Pantoja does not stop. He really
just pure aggression from the second that fight started. He was just on top of Erceg.
Yep. And the story going into this fight actually was whether or not Erceg was ready. We now know he wasn't ready. This was his third UFC fight, and he was getting a title shot. Flyweight is...
It was his fourth fight, actually.
Oh, yeah, sorry. He had 3 fights prior. He had a real flashy knockout prior to this title challenge. It's why he got the title challenge. They've been looking for a guy to distinguish himself at 125 pounds for a little while, and Pantoja really isn't that popular of a champion. If you guys stayed around long enough to listen to his post-fight interview, if you didn't turn off the pay-per-view after you realized he was going to win in round 5, he actually called to the crowd in Portuguese and told them to quit leaving. Not even the Brazilian crowd seemed to care. That's kind of sad. That's too bad. But you got to live in the shadow of the real King of Rio, okay? If you're a Brazilian fighter, I'm sorry. You can only ever be number 2. Now, not to shit on Pantoja too much, he is tough as they come. He's never been finished in his entire career, and it's a long career. He has a lot of fights. No one's ever knocked him out. No one has ever submitted him. And Steve Erceg, even with those vicious elbows and painting the canvas with Pantoja's blood, wasn't the man to do it either. I've been hyping it up. Let's go down to our co-main event. Jose Aldo versus Did It Matter? Did it even matter? Not really. Who do you fight, Clark?
He fought Jonathan Martinez, and honestly, I had some hope for Martinez going into this. I knew Aldo was going to be the favorite, but I thought, hey, maybe this kid can come in and really show off a little bit. But no, Aldo had that. Aldo had that from the moment it began.
So there was a lot of red flags going into this fight if you were an Aldo fan. The first one is his age, because Jose Aldo is now 37 years old. The second was that he was coming out of retirement a year or 2 years after he retired. Usually not a good sign. But if you were a Jose Aldo fan, you would know that in that time period where he was retired, he was boxing the entire time. And it showed. Aldo, I just don't think he has the flexibility anymore. Anyone who's north of 30 knows that your hips just do not work like they used to. And at 37 years old, I'm impressed that he's able to kick as well as he can. But watching him throw some body kicks, Aldo is an old man. So working on his boxing and really improving those weapons, the combinations that Aldo is hitting with, 2 body shots and 2 head shots every single time, working the body, slowing down his opponent. And something that should be noted was that Martinez's out of his last 3 fights, 2 of those were low kick KOs. He was able to kick his opponent in the legs so severely that they could not continue fighting. Jose Aldo is the king of not just Rio, but leg kicks. Aldo is basically the man who brought the modern leg kicking game to MMA. And what's more is that if you want to chop down the lead leg of Aldo, you're just going to smash your shin, because he's also probably probably the best at checking low kicks in the entire fucking sport, still to this day. So, just to recap, Jose Aldo came out of retirement to face an opponent on 3 wins, with 2 of those wins being like actually really brutal finishes of his opponents. So he came back to take a dangerous opponent and looked better than he did when he retired. I really just can't stop hyping up Jose Aldo. If you're not an Aldo fan, you seriously need to quit sucking McGregor's dick. It was a long time ago, okay? It's the last time Aldo the last time Aldo looked human was when Holloway fought him. So if the only people who can really humble Jose Aldo are like Conor McGregor and Max Holloway, fuck off. Dude's king, okay? Anyways, what did you think of this fight, Clark?
Yeah, it seems like you're a big Aldo fan, man.
Yeah, a little bit.
You're like kind of. You're like, baby, if you're gonna propose, like, I think he's married. But I have to agree, he's looking great for his age, like very impressive. I think a lot of people look at that age and go, "Oh, he's coming out of retirement." I don't know. I guess these guys just get bored. You know, it must be boring to go out of an MMA career and then just be like sitting around all day. So why not be practicing boxing? And it definitely paid off. Like, this was excellent fight. I'm looking forward. I think he's got a lot more in him, honestly.
Now I will. Okay, I've been gassing up Aldo quite a bit here.
Okay, so now that I gassed him up, now we have to pump the brakes a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. That's my thing. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, actually, Aldo sucks. Boo.
Shut up. Shut your mouth. Listen. So an important thing to note is that I don't think Aldo's going to win the belt. He has, at maximum, I think, 3 years of fighting left, and he should not be fighting for the belt at 39. I don't want Aldo getting knocked out brutally in his last fights. There's other guys at 135 pounds who he could fight that would be really, really good fights. Dominic Cruz, the commentator, comes to mind. He doesn't want to fight anybody unless that fight is interesting and makes sense. And at 135 pounds, I really don't think there is a better fight that you can make for, let's say, older UFC fans, people who've been around for these guys' careers, who don't want to see them get knocked out by a young guy for no reason. Aldo versus Cruz makes a whole bunch of sense. But in his post-fight interview, Aldo was talking about a run for the belt, and that's a little weird.
Hell yeah, brother.
Well, yeah, you know what? If he does it...
What if he gets it, right?
If he gets there...
Like a legendary moment if he actually takes the belt again, he comes all the way back, he retires, he comes out, and he just grabs it one last time for fun.
You know what? I will ride that hype train, and I won't jump off when I see the barricade coming. That's a train wreck that I will be willing to go down with. But all aboard the hype train for Aldo. Choo-choo. What else was on this card? Wow.
Can we talk about the one that ruined everyone's parlays?
Yeah.
Anthony Smith and Victor Petrino.
Oh,
what
no.
An amusing finish. Because Petrino goes in, he's looking great. And honestly, like, I don't think anyone was picking Smith, really. I certainly wasn't. And then a guillotine in round 1. That was a shocker. That was the real shocker on the card.
Dustin Poirier is screaming and kicking right now, and he has been since it happened. The guillotine is a technique in MMA that doesn't work. It's actually a bad submission. If you jump a guillotine when your opponent is trying to take you down, you've made a terrible decision. Anthony Smith might just be the best man at making terrible decisions. He famously gave up his opportunity to become the first UFC champion crowned by disqualification. He had that opportunity against Jon Jones and didn't take it. And his recompense for that honorable decision was to get the shit kicked out of him by Jon Jones for another 3 rounds after being illegally kneed on the ground. Anthony Smith loves making bad decisions, and they just work out for him. If you were sad, if you thought we weren't going to get any more Anthony Smith, Apex card main events, don't worry. He's back. He's going to be back on commentary telling everyone how he's the number 1 submission guy in the UFC. And I don't know. Anthony Smith is a little bit delusional. He fought a washed Jon Jones and didn't get finished. As I mentioned, he got fouled and didn't just take the win, which is unironically the right thing to do, but at the same time, from a career standpoint, was silly. Now, I've actually seen Petrino fight a couple times before, and he really is a stereotypical power puncher coming out of Brazil. This dude probably gets in gym wars all the time. His number one claim to fame is his punching power. And until he adds some more wrinkles to his game, he's going to get gate kept every time they throw him up against a veteran, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, I think I agree. I mean, it just seemed like such a strange slip up almost. Like he wasn't looking bad up until that point, and then he just lets a guillotine happen. It doesn't feel like that's how it should have gone down. Especially not a guy coming off 5 wins, right? But maybe that's it. A lack of experience, maybe a little bit too much confidence. I don't know. But definitely a rough one to lose there.
Absolutely. And shout out to Bruce Buffer for announcing that he was still undefeated and won until he's like, oh, wait, shit, sorry. Anthony Smith by submission.
Yeah. I believe that is the second time ever that Bruce Buffer's read the wrong name accidentally.
Well,
I don't remember which one was the first one, but I think that's only the second time that he's ever read the wrong name initially. History being made every time, folks. And it was rigged, obviously. That's the other interpretation. The name was on the card. If it went to decision, it was going to be Petrino.
Oh my God, yeah. Well, no, the Brazilians couldn't bat a shutout, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Though, I mean, if you want to talk about some strange refereeing and judging choices, this gets even better. This gets even better the day after, because Michel Pereira wins via submission against Ihor Potieria. I'm very sorry. This is a Ukrainian name. I'm giving up. I can't do it.
I think it is Potieria, I want to say is what it is.
Yeah. I'd never seen him fight before. We've all seen Michel Pereira fight before. Now, usually when you have a fighter who is spamming spinning techniques and is doing all sorts of like crazy backflips and capoeira moves in the octagon, it's a bad sign. Because the point is that you would hit your opponent with one of these techniques when they don't see them coming. Michel Pereira uses them so often, the opponent really can't predict what the fuck is coming at him. And when he throws a regular punch, it usually catches his opponent off guard. Pereira was a monster down at welterweight. Up at middleweight, he's still very dangerous. And the rules are still kind of confusing to him. If you remember way back in the day when he lost, oh my God, he lost by knee. He illegally threw a knee down at welterweight and took his only UFC loss at the time. In this fight, after dropping his opponent, he somersaulted in the air so he could kick and knee a grounded opponent in the face. The referee thought, wow, that's really cool. It didn't say anything.
Everyone just clapped. They're like, wow.
Everyone just clapped. And the commentary team very quickly noticed it and said something, as did everyone I was watching the fights with. That's illegal. You can't fucking do that. That's fucking illegal, okay?
That's illegal.
Cue Dana White saying that's fucking illegal, okay? You can't do that. You definitely can't do that in like a winning sequence. I now reading the UFC stats page for UFC 301 the day after. You know who got a performance bonus? Michel Pereira. For that beautiful guillotine choke that he hit after the illegal.
We were saying that, weren't we? We were like, no, he should, at the very least, he shouldn't get the bonus, right? Now he gets the bonus.
Listen.
You can shin your opponent in the head. It's legal. It's canon. You can do it. We have precedent now, okay? Do it every fight.
I for one, really like the rule, personally, as like a half step to getting us to like kicks and knees to grounded opponents. I personally believe these should be legal. I really don't give a fuck if a dude is allowed to stomp the other guy on the ground. I think that would make for better fights personally. If that's spooky, if that's scary, too bad. Okay. But as a half measure, because I know some people just aren't ready for that. The athletic commissions are not ready for the horror that is wrestlers getting kicked in the face. I'm okay with a half measure where they have to do a somersault first. If you have to somersault before you kick a grounded opponent, would anyone other than Michel Pereira ever kick a grounded opponent? I don't know, but I feel that's enough of a hurdle to get over. So whereas last night I was like, I can't fucking believe they're just gonna, like, the commentary team quit talking about it when they realized the athletic commission wasn't gonna do anything, when the victory was going to Pereira and they were not going to, right? And like, does the Ukrainian fighters coaches, do any of them have the ability to even try to contest the decision, to try to appeal this, to go to the athletic commission? I would guess no. Okay, that's a Brazilian commission, and a Brazilian fighter won. So, oh well. That was a cool finishing sequence. Here's your bonus, Pereira. I think the fight lasted less than a minute anyway, so...
Yeah, I think it was like 54 seconds.
Yeah. Fun one, though. Fun one. And Michel Pereira might eventually get fed someone who isn't a can at middleweight, which would have to be a top 5 opponent. That'll be a little ways down the line yet, so look forward to that. Our fight prior was... Caio Borralho versus Paul Craig. It's really too bad that Paul Craig didn't win because his name is so much easier to pronounce.
I think it's Borralho.
Yeah, Borralho.
It's like you have to kind of roll the high, I think, a little bit, but I can't do that, unfortunately. I will say that Borralho was kind of looking like handsome Squidward a little bit with his face. Yeah. I know that's kind of maybe slightly mean to say, but that was my first impression of him.
My favorite thing about this guy is that I believe in his first UFC win, or one of his first big UFC wins, he threw on his big reading glasses after the fight and started yelling about a nerd takeover. This guy is so fucking cringy. This guy is so fucking cheesy, and he has hands that are going to make you queasy, okay? Because he fucking punches and you fall down. He's actually
that one
good.
Down last night, didn't you?
No, I didn't. That's fresh. I just made that up.
That's fresh? You just opened a can of that up.
Yeah, that's right. The only thing I wrote down yesterday was, let's see, early Fight Pass prelims start at 4 p.m. So that
True.
Yeah, important
that was
notes.
Objectively the case.
You know, didn't want to miss them.
Yeah. No, of course. And this is another performance bonus, and this one I think was pretty well earned. This is like a very solid showing by this guy.
I am starting to get worried for Paul Craig. He was always a slower fighter, both in reaction time and in technique. I love body kicks. Body kicks are an underutilized technique. Throwing naked body kicks 20 times in a row and getting punched in the face as a counter and not adjusting your plan, not a good move, Paul Craig. Bragging about your wrestling that you've been working on and not taking your opponent down once, not a good look, Paul Craig. Everybody likes the Bear Jew, okay? Everybody likes the crazy Scottish dude who paints his fucking face with woad paint like he's a woad warrior for the weigh-ins. It's just the strategy of getting knocked down and submitting your opponent when they come to like try to finish you has stopped working because no one dives into your guard anymore. You got to come up with something else, Paul. I'm very sorry.
Yeah. And it was a great knockout too. Like I said, it was like Craig was astral projecting. He wasn't even in the same room anymore. He just falls to his knees and crumbles. And that was really... we didn't have any other good knockouts, I don't think, tonight.
No, I would say that was probably the best one. Our heem of the evening, if you will.
We're heeming, boys.
Anyways, actually, that's not true. The fight prior was also...
Yeah, there was.
Technically, it's a technical knockout. In Joe Anderson Brito versus Jack Shore, you know, it's really too bad. I like Jack Shore for no other reason than because he's from Wales, and I really like seeing the little dragon flag on fight night. Jack Shore seems like he was pretty good on the regional scene, just has not been able to keep pace with these UFC guys. He didn't get KO'd in this fight, though the record says KO TKO. It was a doctor's stoppage because the doctor was sticking his whole thumb in Jack Shore's shin. There was like a probably not a 6-inch, probably like a 3 to 4 inch gash on Jack Shore's shin from a clash of legs during a leg kick. It kind of seemed like the doctor might have been pushing in some chipped bone as well.
Yeah, we're really not sure on that. The commentators were saying after the fact that they were worried that there was some like fracturing or breakage in the leg and that's why it was stopped. Because at the time, it didn't even look like he was limping or anything. But I mean, I would trust the doctor's opinion on that, obviously, over me just looking at it. But still, that's crazy that is what stopped that fight. Because like that is just not how I don't think anyone expected that to go. Or like really any fight. Would you expect any fight to go? Well, they gashed his leg. I know some people have snapped their legs in the octagon, but just like a bullet hole almost is crazy stuff to see.
Yeah. Well, and listen, anyone who watches UFC casually at the bar and sees leg kicking and, ridicules the technique, I really don't know how to explain this any better. But imagine someone taking a baseball bat to your shin or ankle over and over again. It is horrendous. And Jack Shore's leg was actually already swollen, which is why it tore, like it cut so badly. His shin was swollen, so the skin was actually pressed tighter by the blood inside there. So when they went shin to shin, it sheared all along his shin bone. Feel the edge of your shin bone and imagine your skin splitting there. It's fucking nasty, okay?
Yeah, good thing mosquitoes weren't out yet.
They'd
be having a field day, honestly. Like,
honestly, in that Brazilian stadium, there could be some mosquitoes.
Yeah, probably. It was pretty hot. They were saying it was pretty hot in there. I'm guessing that might have been a factor in some of these.
Yeah, absolutely. Fight beforehand, we had Yasmin Lucindo versus Karolina Kowalkiewicz. Tell us a little bit about this one, Clark.
Oh, well, no, I thought you were going to say something about this. You were really interested, apparently. So, here's the weird thing about this whole situation. Lucindo, they're saying this is the biggest age gap they've had thus far in WMMA. This is the biggest one they've had. And it's very strange that this fight has even really happened. Lucindo's coming in off 3 wins in the UFC, right? And it seems kind of weird, but Karolina's coming off 4 wins. But then you actually watch the fight, and it's like Karolina isn't even on the same level. We're talking like Pee-wee versus pro football players. This is just a serious gap, and I'm honestly not sure how Karolina is winning 2 times last year to coming into this fight and just getting knocked around for 3 rounds and then unanimous decision, because where else would it go, right? It's almost kind of shocking that it went like that. Maybe it's just the age gap. Maybe, I don't know, she's having an off day. Maybe it was because it was hot in the arena. I don't know. But this was a very weird fight to watch, looking at the records and then seeing what actually happened in the ring.
Yeah. I will say maybe the best thing that Karolina has going for her is going to be her experience and her technique. But at her age, she was never a physically imposing fighter. She didn't get, she actually had a title shot back in the day against Joanna Jędrzejczyk, which is a long time ago now, rip to the queen. But she never looked the same after that loss. And I've honestly avoided watching most of her fights since, because I really don't like watching a cute Polish girl get the shit kicked out of her over and over. But she's now been fighting for so long, she's now like a Polish woman. She's now, a handsome Polish woman. And I still don't want to watch her get the shit kicked out of her.
You're really into this woman, man. Maybe you should give her a call.
I'm only into her insofar as she got to touch Joanna Jędrzejczyk. But
all right. I'm not going to probe that one too deeply.
Yeah, I'll be doing the probing later. So before our very exciting WMMA fight, we had, honestly, this was my number 2 fight on the whole fucking card.
Yeah.
Prospect watch at lightweight, the most competitive fucking division. Majdabek Oralbai wins a unanimous decision against Elves Brenner. I don't think this matchup was made for Oralbai to win even, okay? Brenner had a bunch of things in this fight that gave Oralbai trouble. Here's what you need to know about Majdabek Oralbai. This dude is his whole game plan, his whole technique is he's going to punch you, and he has dangerous hands. He has dangerous kicks. Anytime he landed with his opponent, he hurt him. He rattled him several times. What Oralbai does after he hurts you is he stops punching and he starts to wrestle and he tries to submit you. So from a game plan perspective, if Oralbai's game plan goes 100% according to plan, you will be rattled and you will then either be submitted unconscious or tapped when you don't even know what the fuck is happening. Okay? Your brain will be rattled. You'll be trying to remember your mother's name, and then this dude is going to wrap his arm around your neck. Sorry.
Wait a minute, I didn't see that technique.
Yeah, no, sorry.
That's neck around?
Yeah. Well, that happens later when they.
That is the mystical Kyrgyzstani power, though, right?
Exactly. Being from Central Asia, the best base for MMA.
Yeah. Just highly impressive in this fight. And there's that fence grab that he got just an immediate point taken off for. I think that made everyone a little nervous. That's kind of like a rookie mistake. But beyond that, he's just dominated this whole fight. Very fun to watch. And yeah, I'm gonna have my eye on this guy because he's sick as hell.
Hell yeah. Keep an eye out on him. Last weekend, by the way, one of our fighters who won, I believe was the guy who got the uppercut knockout. I'm forgetting his name right now. In his post-fight interview, he said that his loss to Oralbai was a lucky loss, that Orlbai got lucky. After watching him manhandle this Brazilian steroid freak for 15 minutes, I don't think it was luck, dude.
No, I don't think so. And that was Madik, I think.
Yeah. It was our medic. Great fight. Before that, we had Drakkar Klose versus Joaquim Silva. I was a little bit confused in this fight a lot of the time because it seemed like Drakkar Klose could hit Joaquim Silva with whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted, and he just didn't. And he decided he was going to lean up against the cage and wrestle for long stretches of this fight. I really thought he might have thrown it away. Now, Joaquim Silva, on the other hand, why is he slower? Why is he not hitting this guy? If you stand the two of them next to each other, Joaquim Silva looks like he owns the steroid factory. Okay, here's the big thing about these guys who are roided up and just like their lats are coming down from their ears. Like, that's actually not good for the mechanics of a punch. That's actually not good for the mechanics of a kick. If your muscles are so swollen that you can't fully articulate your arm for the punching motion, you're kind of restricted to like looping hooks. And they're usually slow looping hooks because these guys who are abusing steroids probably don't have like a natural athletic advantage. So even though Drakkar Klose is like he looks significantly less fit, he looks less like a WWE superstar, it actually helps him in the striking, which is why I was so confused because he kept just leaning up against the cage, not doing a whole bunch. But when he let his hands go, he could just hit Silva whenever he wanted, and he hurt him a few times. So kind of a confusing win for Drakkar Klose. Not exactly what I wanted to see out of him. But, I am always happy to see one of these like steroid abusing guys just get kind of punched in the face and leaned on for 15 minutes. So,
yeah. Silva and Gomez were sick. Gomez was sick, by the way, in that Silva and Gomez fight.
Oh, yeah?
In case you didn't know about that. During the weigh-in, apparently, he had to be helped off the scale, and then he just went outside of the view of the cameras and threw up. I think this is the second fight that he's missed, actually, that he's had lined up. So, I don't know if we'll be seeing any more Gomez.
Yeah. Prior to our Klose Silva fight, we had Mauricio Ruffy versus Jamie Malarkey. Everyone in the room, when I was watching the fights, as soon as they saw Malarkey, they knew that he wasn't going to win. I like Jamie Malarkey. I don't think he's a terrible fighter, but at lightweight, he's just a little bit too slow and he's too easy to hit. He got beat up pretty bad in this one. This was another KO, TKO, and this actually was via punches. Ruffy just outgunned him. He was faster. He hit harder. Malarkey, not much doing. End of round one, finishes the fight via KO, I believe, punches on the ground. Nice showing from Ruffy. Honestly, we had a lot of newer Brazilian talent kind of get showcased on this card, which you love to see, right? This is the real highlight of the UFC on the road. This is why I wish they would get out of Vegas more often. Let's see some guys locally who are doing good on the regional circuit. Let's give dudes in Brazil a chance. Let's go back to fucking Vancouver. Let's give some Canadians a chance. Let's go back to the UK. Actually go to Europe and get some more fighters from Europe involved. Get out of Vegas, Dana. I'm sorry. I know you can't bring Joe Rogan. I know that sucks. Too bad. That's my big takeaway from this Ruffy fight is that this is a new Brazilian prospect. Keep an eye on him. He's dangerous.
Yeah, and don't kill yourself and find Jesus.
Yes, absolutely.
That was where, I don't know, even when he was speaking in Portuguese, I could kind of like surmise what he was talking about, and I was like, okay, let's go Ruffy. That's why he won the fight, of course, because he had divine inspiration.
Thanking Jesus or Allah is probably the best base for MMA after being a Central Asian. If I had to guess.
You think that's the big help? It's either you're from Central Asia or you have to call on some sort of divine intervention.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess to be fair with those floods in the south of Brazil when this was going on, I guess it was kind of like a nice to have a lot of Brazilian fighters on, and nice to have a lot of them winning, so they could all kind of be like, yeah, everyone suffering through those floods, we're rooting for you. So that was kind of nice, I think, just from like a national perspective.
Absolutely, yeah. A couple of the fighters were shouting out, please donate to the AIDS. So
yeah.
The aid program. Sorry, don't actually donate to the disease.
Donate to AIDS, the disease.
Yeah, Pantoja slipped up and said that one. Not me. It wasn't me. Prior to that, we had Dion Barboza versus Ernesta Caraqueta. Right off the bat with this one, you had Canasqueta. Yeah, I mean, really,
that's what how they were saying it last night. I am just copying the commentators. So
I believe she's Bolivian. Was that right?
I think she's from Lithuania, actually, which is pretty far away from Bolivia.
Hold up, I'm pretty sure we had a Bolivian girl.
There was the Peruvian. I think that was the first fight.
No, actually, we'll talk about that guy's ring name because we have to look it up. But
yeah, she's from Lithuania. But she was an Olympic swimmer, right? And that's what impressed me in this fight is that she wasn't tired at all because swimming is huge cardio, right? She clearly has really good cardio. And I thought she'd won at least one round. I could have accepted the loss. You know, she wasn't looking good in round 1, but then she kind of rallied a bit in round 2. And then round 3, I honestly thought she won round 3 pretty cleanly, but the judges did not agree, I guess. It went unanimous to what's her name, Barbosa.
Yeah, it is tough.
It was a little shocking.
If you're going to go fight in Brazil and you're not from Brazil, you have two opponents. You have your opponent and the judges. Now, you usually do have to fight the judges, but you know, they don't necessarily usually have a direction they're leaning, a tint. That's the real difference between MMA and boxing, I feel, is that whereas boxing, you're worried about the corruption, you know, are they going to try to give this fight to one guy or the other? In mixed martial arts, it's really chaos because the judges just seem to not understand what sport they're watching most of the time. So you do usually have to fight the judges as well. It's more of like a time limit. Like if you get to the end of 15 minutes, you lose. But in Brazil, it's even worse.
Yeah.
And there were like a couple of fights on this card where it was a close decision, and you knew the Brazilian was going to get the nod. Which, whatever, home field advantage, you know.
I guess home advantage. That does kind of suck ass, obviously, but
yeah,
I guess that's just how it is.
It's tough, right? Because in general, most of the time, you can actually look up a decision that people dispute and find that most media sources agree with the public. That most people saw what you saw and that the fight should have gone the way you thought it would. I just don't know how you ever get the judges to watch the same fight you do. I just don't think that's possible. So,
I think it's possible, but I just don't think it'll happen.
Yeah.
But I do hope we see more of Canasqueta or Carasqueta. I don't know how to say it. I apologize. But I do hope we see more of her because I think she has some serious potential. Maybe needs a little more work and actually like the fighting component, but she's good physically. I think she's strong. She's got good cardio. She just needs a little bit more of like a game plan and like a goal when she gets into that ring.
Yeah, her hands were good. When she was able to just do some work on the feet, she was piecing up Barboza. But if you're going to be that tall and lanky, you really need to work on your grappling game because the number one way to deal with your reach is to put your butt in the ground. So keep an eye on her, though. Before that, we had Ismael Bonfim versus Vince Pichel. Vince Pichel, 41 years old, gave a good account of himself. I didn't think he would make it to the end of this fight. I couldn't tell you if Pichel has a great chin for a 41-year-old or if Bonfim has pillow fists.
Yeah, and that's the question that I feel like is like that's the tail of the tape. You know what I mean? Like, is Bonfim actually any good if you can't knock out Pichel with how much he was dominating in this fight? Like, is anyone else in the division going to be worried about him if they're like, well, he couldn't even knock out, Vic Pichel?
This is a lightweight too, right? Like,
I know, yeah, but it's still like...
No. What I'm saying is that at lightweight, there are so many killers. This victory is almost sad. This was a setup. Yeah. You were supposed to knock out a 41-year-old to get the Brazilian crowd excited in the start.
And that's what I figured as well. Yeah. And it didn't happen. And I'm like, man, that is... It almost like they both lost, kind of.
In a way. And I mean, if you punch a guy 111 times in the head, he should look a little bit worse for wear than 41-year-old Vince Pichel did. His mustache looked worse before the fight started than after. So, and you know what? Whatever. Vince Pichel's been around for fucking forever. He's a hard-nosed guy, but he's just literally no good. So if you get matched up against him, the UFC is either trying to give you some shine or they're just feeling bad for you. Not a good look for Bonfim. Nice win, though. Enjoy your win bonus. And the first fight of our early Fight Pass prelims, Alessandro Costa versus Kevin Bjorhaus.
Bjorhaus with the Shadow the Hedgehog hair. Have to make that comment real quick.
Actually, his haircut is probably directly related to his fight name, which translated from Spanish is the Black Rooster. So,
okay.
Yeah, do with that what you will.
Some of these guys with their fight names, I'm like, man.
No, but that's why he had his hair dyed red, right?
I know, I understand that.
Yeah? That's good.
I just think that is a dumbass name. So.
Yeah, I would agree.
And it didn't do him any good in this fight, for sure.
No, we started off the card with one of our performance-winning bonuses. Costa knocked out Bjorhaus. Kevin had better hands. He had better striking. In general, he looked sharper, and his defenses were better as well. In round one, he definitely found the target. The problem was that Costa realized he had every physical advantage. He could take the punches that Kevin was throwing, but Kevin couldn't take what was coming back. And once he started to get a little bit more physical, he started to run away with it. Now, in every single fight, there are binaries. Doesn't matter how strong you are, doesn't matter how fast you are, there is a faster fighter and a slower fighter. There is a stronger fighter and a weaker fighter. In every fight, you learn where that duality lies. And as soon as Costa figured out, oh shit, I'm actually way faster and stronger, it was over. And shout out to Urseg, because this was one of Urseg's UFC victories. And actually, it got me a little bit hyped up on Urseg for the main event, watching the very first fight on the card end by knockout. And the guy who got that killer knockout had been had the brakes beaten off of him by Urseg. But as we all know, in the main event, it wasn't meant to be. But Costa looked pretty good, and you love to see knockouts at flyweight. These little dudes are finally finding the mark. This used to be one of the big complaints with flyweight 125 pounds, was that there were no knockouts, there were no finishes. These guys are too small, they can't hurt each other. We've learned that that's not true. The division is starting to fill out a little bit more. And Costa is another dude now at 125 pounds. Keep your eyes on him. Urseg only needed 3 fights to get the title shot, so a nice KO. He could be 1 or 2 fights away himself. Any thoughts on this last one, Clark?
No, I think you pretty much covered it. I don't know. Do you have any final thoughts on this whole event?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd like to take complete credit for telling 2 of my family members to bet on Aldo, because Aldo won, and he was the underdog coming back out of retirement, and he made them money. And even I
think he was the favorite though when the fight started. I think he was it was like minus 100 for him, which isn't huge, but I mean, come on.
Yeah, you know what? Those odds actually were flipping as the fight card went on, as more Brazilians, I think, started to bet on Aldo, because at the start Vegas did not see it that way. If you see Aldo as an underdog, make sure to lock in that fucking bet, guys.
It's all about those bets.
It's all about it's not all about those bets, but if Jose Aldo is not fighting like a number 5 or higher guy, pretty safe fucking bet. I'll put that out there. You can quote me on that.
Yeah, that's financial advice.
Yeah. You'll never find me though, and I only ever use Clark's name, so you can't even find me, dude.
Okay. His name is Francis.
No. Okay, and that's the end of the podcast. Thanks for joining us.
Podcast. Thanks for calling.
Whoa.
See you next time. Woo!